Good evening, everyone. And on behalf of Esri Eastern Africa, welcome to today's webinar, Getting Started with ArcGIS Pro. This webinar is hosted by Esri Eastern Africa and is our first webinar this year in what will be a series of sessions on various components of the ArcGIS platform and how they can serve you. My name is Laban Dungo, a solutions engineer with Esri Eastern Africa. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available to you within 10 business days. So let's get right into today's agenda. We will be introducing ArcGIS Pro and stating its place in the ArcGIS desktop space. We will then take a tour of ArcGIS Pro and familiarize ourselves with its ribbon-based interface, as well as the project-based organization that it makes use of. Finally, we shall go through common GIS workflows that can be implemented using ArcGIS Pro. All participants in the seminar have been entered in mute mode, and questions can be submitted in the conversation panel that appears on the right or left-hand side of your interface. At the end of this session, we will take a few minutes to answer the questions that have been submitted through this panel. Now that that's out of the way, let's introduce ArcGIS Pro as part of the ArcGIS desktop family. ArcGIS Pro is an application within the ArcGIS desktop product portfolio. ArcGIS Desktop is a combination of ArcMap, which includes ArcCatalog, ArcScene, and ArcGlobe, and now ArcGIS Pro. ArcGIS Pro is included at no charge with every license of ArcGIS Desktop. It is important to mention that with every purchase of a desktop license, you also get a named user within ArcGIS Enterprise or ArcGIS Online, effectively making any desktop user a platform user with access to all components of the platform. So you may be wondering, what's going to happen to ArcMap? Well, fear not, ArcMap continues. ArcGIS Pro is a new part of desktop that can run side by side with ArcMap. It is a separate install and is able to work with data that has been created by other components of the desktop family, such as ArcMap and City Engine. It's also able to utilize most of the scripts and models that have been created in the aforementioned applications. Like ArcMap, it is licensed at 3 levels: Basic, Standard, and Advanced, with each level mirroring the corresponding functionality in ArcMap. So why should you use Pro? Well, ArcGIS Pro is a next-gen application that revolutionizes desktop GIS and the geospatial industry. ArcGIS Pro is a 64-bit multi-threaded software that takes advantage of a new display engine that renders and processes your data faster than ever before, allowing you to create and edit 2D and 3D maps with ease. With ArcGIS Pro, tools are displayed contextually through a ribbon-based interface, making sure that you always have the right tools for the job. ArcGIS Pro is also completely integrated with ArcGIS Online and ArcGIS Enterprise, making sharing, collaborating, and showcasing your work easier than it has ever been. ArcGIS Pro's project-based workflow allows you to work with multiple map displays and layouts from within one project and publish your maps in 3D scenes and 2D web maps where they will have the most impact. Finally, repetitive tasks can be automated, saving your time. And since ArcGIS Pro is a 64-bit app, you get lightning-fast tools that can make full use of the hardware that you have assembled for your GIS setup. Thus, from the list of capabilities that we have just mentioned, it can be said that ArcGIS Pro is a sort of melding together of the different components of the desktop family into a compact and effective application with better performance and which helps you process and analyze your data much faster and share your work more efficiently. Rather than keep talking about it, we'd rather show you what it's about. And to do this, let's get started with a quick tour of ArcGIS Pro and see how it works. Like every other Windows-based application, we can access ArcGIS Pro by searching for it on the search bar, the start button of your Windows application, typing in the name ArcGIS Pro, and clicking on the icon. So of course, you'll be doing this after you have installed and licensed your application. I will get to the details of that towards the end of this presentation though. So as you can see, ArcGIS Pro is pretty fast. It's already open, and immediately what I see are the projects that I've already done before. And on the right, you can see different types of templates that I can use to create a new project. At the top right of the application, you can actually see the persona that I've logged in as. So ArcGIS Pro relies on licensing through ArcGIS Online or Enterprise ArcGIS installations. So I've actually logged in through my licensed through my ArcGIS Online instance, and you can see my name here and the name of my organization. So you may be wondering what a project is, because you can see different types of projects displayed. Well, ArcGIS Pro operates on the basis of projects rather than maps. Projects allow you to assemble all the resources you require to complete a task in one place. A project may contain maps, layers, tasks, connections to servers, databases, and many other things. You can create a project on your local file system or download one from ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise. So let's go ahead and create a project on our file system, and let's see what a project is about. So I'm going to go ahead and create a blank project so that we can start from scratch. I'm going to click on that and give my project a name. Call it brand new project. Of course, your project will have better names. And clicking on that leads me to a different kind of interface. And as you'll notice, ArcGIS Pro is a ribbon-based application. So many commands are available from the ribbon at the top of the ArcGIS Pro window. You may recognize the ribbon from using different kinds of Windows-based products, such as the Office family of products. That's Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint. So it's very intuitive. You've seen this before, just that you haven't seen it with GIS tools. So many commands are available from the ribbon at the top of the window, and more specialized or advanced functionality is found in the panes, dockable windows that appear as needed. So for example, if I came to insert and clicked on add folder, sorry, that actually won't work. So let's say if I came to view and clicked on the catalog pane, you'll see that a dockable window appears on the right of my screen. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. And let's continue looking at the idea of tabs. So there's different types of tabs. There's core tabs, which are always visible. So you can see home, insert, analysis, view, imagery, share. Those are core tabs. They're always visible. And we have contextual tabs, which appear and disappear as needed, depending on the view and data that you're working with. So you may click on a particular item and find out that the tabs appear based on what's happening. So let's get started with maybe creating something. Before we get started with creating something though, let's continue looking at the interface. And you can see a project is able to host many things. So for example, there's a bunch of toolboxes. So double clicking on this actually opens a set of toolboxes, a toolbox that is native to the project that you've been working with. You can have a look at the databases. So creating a project creates a toolbox that is associated with the project, creates a database that is associated with the project, imports default styles to your project, opens a brand new folder for your project, and imports default locators for your project. As is the case, since you've logged in as a member of a certain portal, it actually brings you the whole structure of a portal to have a look at. So a project is really nothing without maps. So you may want to start off by creating a map. So let's say you're starting from scratch, you probably want to create a new map. And that's easily done by coming to the new map button over here and clicking on new map. And what does that do? You guessed it. It opens a new map. So let's see what our map looks like. You can see our map loads with the default base map. So the reason my default base map is world imagery is because that's the default on my portal. So you can see almost immediately you have a semblance of a map. You may not have data, but you have a background and you have two layers in your table of contents. So you will remember that we talked about contextual tabs. So let's see what that means. So basically what this means is that tabs may or may not appear based on what you've clicked, either on your table of contents or another pane. So let's see. When I click on boundaries and places, you can see that a tab has appeared named appearance. And with this tab, I'm able to do a number of things. I'm able to do a swipe between layers. So basically it's swiping between the annotation and the layers. I'm able to perhaps change transparency of a certain layer, and so on and so forth. So basically this is a contextual tab. Only appears once I click on a tab that fits, on a layer that fits the context. So we've created a new map rather easily by clicking on the new map button. But what if I had a map that I was working with in ArcMap and I want to bring it into ArcGIS Pro? What do I do? So we have this map that we've been working on. It's called Development Project Area. And I've been working on this on ArcMap, and now I'm ready to, take a deep dive into ArcGIS Pro and, experience what ArcGIS Pro is like. But I really don't want to reconstitute the map. So what do I do? Well, you can actually import a map. So you can come to the Insert tab and click on the Import Map button, which allows me to import an existing ArcMap, ArcScene, or ArcGlobe document. So I'm clicking on Import Map. I'm going to head to where my data is. So this should be at a certain folder. I seem to have quite a number of items in there. Yes. And zoom in to my particular folder. Let me look for my there we have it. Have my development project area MXD and import. So what it's doing now is basically taking my my map created in ArcMap and creates the new map. So at times, if you hadn't specified remembering the path of your data, you may get this particular error. I'm sure some of you have remembered this error in ArcMap. So at least a few things are familiar. So let's go ahead and prepare the data source. And that works pretty much the same as it did earlier. So basically what you do is actually you can come to the properties and you come to your source and set your data source. So I'm going to go ahead and give back my data source to what it was. So HGIS data, sorry, and head on to my folder. my geodatabase, feed it into roads. And you can see what I really like about this is that it was able to tell what kind of feature class that I'm working with. See, line feature classes. So it only shows me what's relevant to what I'm looking for. So we have that, set it in, can say okay. We have our roads. Let's fix this as well. You can see once again, only looking for polygons. We're done with that. Great. And we have our map. Same map we had in ArcMap, same symbology. Everything's pretty much the same. So we now have our map, and yeah, we can add a base map to this particular map. So I'm going to go ahead and add imagery to this particular map. You can see very quick, intuitive, and yeah, we have a base map added to our map rather quickly. And I've noticed that my labels seem to not be visible. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is click on the roads layer, and as you can see, contextual tabs have appeared. One for appearance, one for labeling, and one for data. So I'm going to click on the one for labeling, and you can see I have a whole range of things that I can use here to label, and I can actually go ahead and change the color of my labels, and I've changed it to white, which is a bit more visible. Very quick, very fast. Perhaps this is not exactly the best for my map. I could go ahead and make this dark gray canvas. Now it's even more visible. So I have my map here. I have my buildings, and yeah, a really good contrast here between my maps and the features that I have. So I'm going to go ahead and uncheck this particular reference layer, so that I'm just left with my labels and my buildings. So I want to go ahead and try and label these buildings, not label these buildings, sorry, change the symbology of these buildings. And it's pretty easy. Once again, relies on the context tab. So I click on the building layer, and my context tab shows me I have choices of changing my appearance, labeling, and data. So I'm going to show up to appearance, click on symbology, and I have a host of options. I could base it on unique values, graduated colors, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead with the unique values. And you can see a context pane appears. And I want to base this on type. So you can see I have different types over here. I have administration and commercial. I could go ahead and base it also on name, although that would be a bit much. Or I could do development status. So I want to see what's developed and what's underdeveloped. And I have a number of ramps I can use here. Freely provided. So I think I like this best, and I could go ahead and change individual symbols. But I think for now this should be it. Can work with that, and can say I'm done. could have been able to change my symbology rather quickly and using the context tab. So just in that short period, we've been able to import a map, change the color of labels, and change the symbology very quick. So let's go ahead and look at another aspect of ArcGIS Pro, which is the ability to do both 2D and 3D views. So what we are having right now is a 2D view. This is what we're used to working with in ArcMap. But what if I was able to see this in a 3D perspective? Wouldn't that be amazing? Well, ArcGIS Pro allows me to do that, and rather easily, I might add. So what we're going to do is we're going to now switch into a 3D view of the data that I have, and I'm going to use the View tab to do this. So clicking on the View tab, which is a core tab as we mentioned earlier, you can see over here we have a map converter. So it's called a convert tool, converting my map between 2D and 3D. So at the click of a button, conversion begins. And what I like about this is that it actually creates another map tab. So leaving my my initial tab, okay. And you'll notice that there's different iconology, if there's such a word, for the different types of views. So for the 2D view, you can see something that looks like a map. For the 3D view, you can see something that looks like a globe. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on this and go to zoom to layer. So there we have it. That's our map. That's our 2D data on a 3D map display. So let's go ahead and change what these buildings are. As it is right now, they're under 2D layers. We want to switch this up to 3D layers. So all I need to do is actually click on the layer and drag it to the 3D layer group. And just like that, we've actually set it up to be a 3D layer. So let's wait for it to draw. There we have our streets. And we should be having our buildings drawing in a short while. Panning still active. Taking a bit of time, probably because there's quite a number of buildings. So there we have it. We have our 3D data over here. So you'll notice that it still looks flat. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and extrude the data. So what does extrusion mean? Extrusion basically means extending your data to a sort of 3D appearance. So once again, we're going to use a contextual tab. We're going to come to the appearance. As you can see here, we have a section of the tools named as extrusion. So we're going to pick a type, and we're going to add extrusion to the base height. And we're going to pick a field, and our field is going to be our building height in meters. And let's see what that does. So basically we've added a value, our data value of our height data value in terms of meters to the base of our map. So our base being our base map. Let's see what that looks like. So you can see it's actually drawn. Let's zoom in. Go back to my map tab to expose the zooming in tools. And let's zoom in and see what this looks like. Or we could use this particular navigator over here. So you can see right now moving through this allows me to navigate across the map, but it also has other functionalities. So when I click this particular show full control button over here, it also allows me the capability to move across the landscape. So let's zoom into this particular setup. Looks pretty realistic, huh? Imagine you're able to do this really quick. As you can see, the base map takes the terrain of the region. So that's why you can see if some places are a bit bumpy and so on and so forth. And as usual, clicking on a particular item opens up a pop-up for that item. You can see the building, you can see the height. It's a developed building, so you can see it's green. So under development, orange, data being exposed through the button, and of course, navigating using our navigator. Very exciting stuff. What we can do is actually try and make this a bit more realistic. So we can do this using something named a facade. So a facade gives realistic building textures to 3D buildings. And these are, you can get a facade by downloading it from ArcGIS Online. There's different facades for different kinds of buildings. So you can actually get a facade to display your scene with realistic detail. And you can easily obtain any one of these facades from ArcGIS Online. Just go in there, search, type in facade, and you could get a number of facades that you could use for your different buildings. Or you could actually take a photo of the building that you're working with and create a facade, which is a topic we'll discuss later on in our series, in our web series. So heading back to our map, I've downloaded a facade, and I can actually go ahead and utilize this facade to make my building scene look a bit more realistic. So I'm going to actually head in here to the symbology pane. And perhaps look for a different type of symbology. So let's try a single symbol. Let's pick a particular symbology. At our properties. And you can see I have a number of properties here, structure, and so on and so forth. So rather than use a solid fill, I'm going to use something called a procedural fill. Now I need to mention that facades are basically components of another desktop product provided by Esri known as City Engine that is basically used to model cities. So in this particular case, I'm going to use a procedural tool. Now you don't need to have a City Engine for you to do this. I'm just going to pick my procedural fill and go ahead and use a facade on it. So it's taking a bit of a while. So that's great. So what I can do is actually pick this rule. So basically what a facade is, it's a set of rules that the scene will abide by when drawing 3D buildings. So that's why I've clicked on rule, and actually I'm going to pick a facade here. So what a facade is actually like a rule package. I'm actually going to click on that and say OK. And you can see a preview of what our buildings will look like. You can go through and see the floor height and so on and so forth. And yeah, you can actually go ahead and apply. So let's see what this does for our buildings. Take a bit of time to apply the facade to each and every building. Once again, you can always see what's happening with your map by looking at this particular button over here. So it's telling me that it's still drawing. It's basically applying the rules. And so our facade has been applied, and we can use our navigator to navigate through our landscape. So I'm going to zoom out a bit. And you can definitely see this is a lot more realistic than having blocks appear on your map. So looking like a real city. We've been able to do this in a matter of minutes. So you may want to switch between your different views. So here we have a 3D view of the map, and here we have a 2D view of the map. But at times you want to see them at the same time. So how can you work with that? So basically you can work with that using the View tab, of course. And here we have a button named Link Views with a number of options on how to link. So I'm going to pick Center and Scale, meaning I want to see both the map and the 3D scene at the same time and at the same scale. So let's go ahead and click on that. And let's have our views. You can see that we've linked the maps. So basically I have layers over here and layers 3D, and I can actually take this out and dock it on one side and have the layers docked at exactly the same side. So what does this mean? This means that I can actually, as I zoom, I'm actually zooming through both. So when I see these buildings, it's actually these buildings. And as I pan over here, I'm actually seeing the same type of buildings. I'm actually seeing the same buildings. So it's a very interesting way to work, made possible by ArcGIS Pro. So with that, we've been able to see a number of things. We've been able to import a map. We've been able to work on labeling. We've been able to work on symbology. We've been able to work with 2D and 3D views, and we've linked these views and have been able to navigate them both at the same time using ArcGIS Pro. So that's a little taste of what you can do with ArcGIS Pro. And let's get back to our slides and see what else is in store for us with this amazing piece of software. As you have seen from the demo, ArcGIS Pro is an easy to use and intuitive application. Not only will you find it easy to adapt to, you'll also find that its processing power makes work easier for some of the tasks that you have become accustomed to doing. Take, for example, analysis. Analysis has always been a strong point for ArcGIS, and ArcGIS Pro does not break this tradition. With over 800 tools at your disposal, ArcGIS Pro takes geoprocessing to another level. It introduces the geoprocessing pane, which serves as a search tool for analysis tools and builds on previous staples such as Model Builder and the Python window. Standard procedures such as network analysis and image processing are also found within Pro's portfolio. Are you creating or editing features? Don't worry, Pro has you covered with more simplified edit sessions and 2D and 3D editing capabilities. To get a better idea on how this works, let's jump into a demo, shall we? Editing workflows in ArcGIS Pro are simple, whether creating new features or editing existing ones. Editing is always enabled in ArcGIS Pro, and you can edit both 2D and 3D data using the same basic workflows. The Edit tab provides quick access to basic editing tools, whether creating or modifying features. So as you can see, when I click the Edit tab over here, it exposes a whole array of tools that I can use for editing. For example, snapping, which I've turned on, creating, modifying, and splitting features. So the Create feature pane, which I'm clicking to open right now, exposes feature templates and ways in which you can create a feature. Feature templates basically define all the information you require to create a feature, and more importantly, the symbology. You can also choose to create features which share many multiple attributes using the active template pane, which I have just opened right now, and where I can pre-populate values for the next feature that I will create. Now, to demonstrate how editing works in ArcGIS Pro, we are going to go ahead and utilize a common workflow, digitizing building footprints. To assist in this digitization, we're going to pull from the imagery base map, which comes bundled as part of ArcGIS Pro's set of base maps. To help us digitize the footprint even more accurately, we are going to use an editing grid, a feature introduced in ArcGIS Pro. So as you can see, the edit grid is off. I'm going to turn it on, and you can see that a grid is formed over the map view. I'm going to zoom in to a particular building that I want to digitize. And we can go ahead and now set the origin of this particular grid. So clicking on Set Origin button, I can actually come and place the origin of the grid at the corner of a particular building. And once I align the grid with the wall, I can actually go ahead and ensure that I am creating parallel and perpendicular lines. So aligning, I've aligned it there. As you can see, the grid is a bit wide, so I'm going to make it a bit shorter. And there you have it. So heading back to my Create Features pane, I can actually pick the tool that I wish to create a polygon and start editing. And since snapping is on, my edits will snap to wherever there's a grid. So you can see where there's a grid intersection, I can snap to that. And this makes my editing rather easy. Snapping to any grid intersection that aligns with the wall. And just like that, I've been able to edit a 2D feature. If I come to the attributes, you'll be able to see that these attributes actually align with what I'd put in my active template plane. So to finish the editing procedure, all I need to do is come to the finish button over here and save my edits. Clicking on save my edits shows me the edits that I've made, very handy, and exactly where the edits have been made. I can go ahead and say yes. And just like that, I've been able to actually edit a map. I mean a 2D map, very quickly digitizing building footprints. We turn the grid off, and there we have our edits. Editing works exactly the same in 3D. In this particular case that I've just opened, we wish to change the width of a particular feature that has been created wrongly. So let's go ahead and see where this particular feature is. I've created a feature for this particular bookmark. I mean a bookmark for this particular feature. And the procedure remains the same. Click on the Edit tab, get exposed to many tools that can help me with 3D editing. As you can see here, we have a Replace Multipatch tool that was not available in the previous edit setting, showing you that ArcGIS Pro is actually intuitive. So we're going to go ahead and select the feature that we want to edit, since we are now modifying an existing feature. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, and then go ahead and open the Modify Tools, the Modify Feature panel, and pick what I want to do. For in this particular case, I want to reshape this particular feature. So clicking on vertices, I can actually now pick a vertex. I want to extend this portion that's sunken in so that it extends, it protrudes past the width. So I get a particular area and I can actually push that out. And very easily, I've made an edit. But I don't want to stop there. I actually want to split part of this extrusion and make it have a slanted roof, just like the other section of the 3D feature. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to split this. I'm actually going to split the top of this particular extrusion. And once I'm done with the split, I can actually raise the extrusion. So just like that, I've been able to do 2 really quick edits on the 3D feature. And I can actually come to the attributes and maybe add some new attributes, like a unknown building. Let's call it double roofed. And perhaps give a height. And just like that, I can go ahead, finish my edits, and save. Once again, I'm able to tell what exactly I've edited and where the source lies. Clicking yes. And just like that, I've been able to make a quick edit. So as you can see, editing workflows are made very intuitive and very easy using ArcGIS Pro. So analysis is similarly intuitive in ArcGIS Pro. Similar to editing, analytic workflows are exposed through the Analysis tab. So clicking on the Analysis tab exposes me to a number of tools that I can use for analysis. So whether you're into creating work using ArcPython, you can use the Python window. You can also go ahead, make use of Model Builder. There's a number of tools that are exposed through either portal for ArcGIS or ArcGIS Online. But basically, we can say the Analysis tab houses Arc Toolbox and enables access to the most commonly used analysis tools, as well as geoprocessing options using an easy-to-navigate interface. So double-clicking on the Tools option exposes a geoprocessing pane. And the Search option on the geoprocessing pane enables you to find tools and toolboxes, which will be categorized according to the functionality. To illustrate how analysis in ArcGIS Pro might work, we'll try and identify crash hotspots on Nairobi road networks, as we can see in the accident map view that we have in front of us. To start off, we have the map with points that represent accident crash sites within Nairobi for a 5-month period in 2015. We want to use this data but not corrupt the original, so we will go ahead and create an identical feature class and copy the features. This is easily done through the Copy Features tool. Let's go ahead and search for the tool on the processing pane. So typing in Copy Features, double-clicking on it opens input parameters for the tool. So a short moment and the parameters will appear, and we can fill them in and run the tool. So there we have it, parameters and the environment. So you can actually fill in your parameters here, have a look at the environment, see what output coordinate system you're putting in, your geographic transformations, and so on and so forth. Let's head straight to the parameters. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the accident points. So I'm actually interested in Nairobi accidents, and I want to have, I want the tools, I want it to appear in a certain feature class. So I'm going to call it a copy of features. And go ahead and run. Now what's really cool about ArcGIS Pro is while the tool runs, you're actually able to hover over the tool and find out what actually is happening. What's the parameters that you used, and did the message succeed? Did the process succeed? So you can actually see that copy completed successfully. You can expand this and see the same information down there. So it's actually added the layer to my map. So I'm going to go ahead and just call this Nairobi accidents. And go ahead and remove this original layer. So there we have it. We are done. So once we've copied the features, we're going to use the snap tool to make sure that the crash points are tied to a road segment. This will move every crash point to the edge of a road segment. Once again, the procedure remains the same. Come to the geoprocessing pane, type in the tool of choice. In my case, snap, double click the tool, get parameters. So I'm going to go ahead, and my input parameters are the Nairobi accidents layer. I'm going to create my snap environment and snap it to the roads in Nairobi. And I actually want to snap the features to the edge of a road segment. And I want a distance of, let's say, 0.05 kilometers. So I'm going to go ahead. I can actually start an edit session while doing the process, or I could just run it as is. So I'm going to go ahead and run that and snap my features to the segments. And the same applies. Hover over the tool, see the messages, and see the parameters that I'd put in. So the tool has actually snapped the features to a road segment. And one really cool thing about this is, for any tool that you've used, we have a pane here written recent tools. You can actually come to an arrow here and see when you last run the tool, and you can click on that and see exactly the parameters that you used, and you can even rerun the tool. Very amazing stuff from ArcGIS Pro. So now that we've located all our points on the road, we're going to go ahead and use the spatial join tool to count the number of accidents associated with each segment. Once again, we can find and open the spatial join tool through the geoprocessing pane search. So spatial join, get parameters, feed in my road segments, join it to my crash features, which is my Nairobi accidents tool. So there we have it. I'm going to do a quick field map of join features. This might take a short while since I'm only interested in the unique name of the road or the road ID and the reports that were made for each particular accident. So I'm going to delete quite a number of these fields. I'm only interested in 3 fields, and that's what I'm gunning for. Just take all these out. As you can see, it was a very populated data set, quite a number of fields to work with. And we are done. I want to get a sum of these reports. And yes, once we're done with this, we can go ahead and run the tool. So we're going to do a spatial join. Once again, hover, see your parameters, get your work done. Really simple. You can see how fast this is with ArcGIS. with ArcGIS Pro. So there we have it. We have our spatial join. Done some good work for us there. So now we're going to go ahead, and since we know the crashes that each segment has had, we need to create a new field to calculate the crash rate. So to do this, we're going to go ahead and use the add field tool. And we're going to do the same procedure we've had. Add field, pick the table that we're interested in. In our case, the counts that we've just generated. We're going to add a field name, call it crash rate. We want it to be double precision, and we want to give it a good alias. So it's going to be average crashes per week per kilometer per week. And we're going to go ahead and run that tool. And you can see that my tool has run, and there's a warning. And I can see that it has renamed the field crash rate to crash_rate. So it's intelligent enough to know that I may have made a mistake typing in the field name and rectify it for me. That's how good ArcGIS Pro is. So once it's done, we've already created the field. Let's go ahead and populate the field. So I'm opening the attribute table to see where the field is. You can see the field has been generated, but there's no data within it. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the calculate field tool. Once again, parameters, input table, let's generate something. So I'm going to write a little expression here. So I'm going to pick my my join count, and I'm going to divide that by the number of weeks in the 5-month period times the length of each road segment. And just like that, let me just minimize that. It's like that. Populate my road crash count field. So as you can see, it has been populated. And now that I have this particular value, I can go ahead and actually run a hotspot analysis on the road crash rates to find out which streets are more statistically prone to accidents. This means finding the hotspot analysis tool and running it. So once again, hotspot analysis. So give me some parameters and we can run the analysis. So I hope you've seen how it's very responsive when you type in the name of the tool, and very quick to give you the parameters. So I'm actually working with the road crash counts, and my input field is the average crashes in per kilometer per week, and I want to get a road crash hotspots. I want to conceptualize my spatial relationship as inverse distance squared, just so that we make sure that data sets are not affected by their nearest neighbors. I'm going to apply some correction to whatever analysis I do, and then I'm going to go ahead and run this. And as we said, reading data, you can see basically it giving you like results almost immediately, very quick, very intuitive. As work happens, you get to see what's happening, and not in the sterile environment that maybe you had in ArcMap. A very, very well thought out. So we are copying analysis fields to the output feature class, which is going to be actually displayed on our map in a few seconds. So there we have it. We have our data right there. And to give us a bit of, to try and help us see how this looks, I'm going to tick off Nairobi accidents and make sure that the portions with 99% confidence are a bit more visible. So there we have it. So as you can see, highlighted over here, the areas that are more prone to accidents, bits of it in red. So we can actually check this off, and this is quite a lot easier to have a look at. So now that we're able to see areas that may be problematic, let's zoom into some of these. You can see some around the CBD and so on and so forth. So that's how easy it was to do analysis. So once you've done your analysis, you may want to share this with people who you're working with. And you're in luck. ArcGIS Pro makes sharing your work a lot easier than you might think. All you need to do is click on the Share tab. And in our case, we can share the analysis that we've done in many ways. We can either package this whole project with all 3 maps and send it to someone with ArcGIS Pro. We can either package it as a map, as a layer. Since we are not running a geoprocessing tool, we will not make use of the geoprocessing package. But if you're willing to share on the web, you can share this as a web map to your ArcGIS organization, or you can do what we're going to do right now, which is share this as a web layer. So I'm going to go ahead and share this as a web layer, publish web layer. And what that's going to do is it's going to open for me, it's going to open a pane for me, which is share as web layer. So as you can see, we have the share as web layer pane opening there. And I can call this accident map analysis layer. I want to share this as a feature layer, and I want to give it a summary visualization of hotspots, of crash hotspots in Nairobi. And I'm going to add a few tags, like words to help people find this easier: crash, hotspot, analysis. And I want to share with everyone within my organization, so all authenticated users. You can go ahead and analyze. Well, I can see that some of these layers don't have feature templates, but those are not really, that's not really a huge error. You can go ahead and publish this as a web layer to my online account. So this runs exactly as a geoprocessing tool. And as the map runs, as the publishing runs, I'm able to see how the publishing is going on. You can see it's consolidating the data and staging the web layer. But one really cool thing about ArcGIS Pro is that it's 64-bit. That means you can run multiple tasks at the same time. So while this is publishing on the web, I may be interested in publishing this to a PDF. So I've gone ahead and I've already created my map layout. You can see it over here. Very well done, quick. And I'm interested in sharing this as a PDF. Now notice how contextual this is. When I was on the web map and I clicked on share, I had these options. Now that I'm on the layout and I click share, these are the options that I get. So I want to print this out as a PDF. So I'm going to click on layout, print, and I'm going to go ahead and print it out. So as you can see, I'm doing two things at the same time. I'm printing out my PDF, and at the same time, I'm publishing my map to ArcGIS Online. Map layer. Accident map layer. Go ahead and save that. So this is something that would never be possible within ArcMap, merely because it's 32-bit. And this is what 64-bit means. You're able to do a lot more things. You can see that that was already published, printed out. So let's actually see that while this continues to publish to the web. I have my accident map layer. I'm going to open this. And I want to see how granular this is. Right now we're at 117%. I could actually zoom in to 400%, and you can see how well it works. Amazing stuff. Let's even look at the text for the legend. Very great publishing, very great resolution. Let's go back to 117 or 100. Let's go to 117, 25. Yeah, very well done. Let's head back to our ArcGIS Pro web layer. So this is taking a short while to work. It's still actually working. There's also, I forgot to mention this, there's a job status pane, which you can actually look through and see how it's working. Good stuff. This should be done in a few. Of course, this depends on your internet connection and so on and so forth. So we've successfully published the web layer. We can go ahead and have a view of it. I may need to sign in. Or since I only shared it with authenticated users. And here we have it. As you can see, you can open this in the map viewer, and you're able to see exactly the same map that I've published on the web. The same analysis results. Isn't that amazing? And especially fast. That's quite an achievement, I'd say. So let's wrap this up. Wrap this up. How is ArcGIS? You might have seen what we've done and been impressed, and you're wondering how to access ArcGIS Pro. Well, ArcGIS Pro can be accessed through ArcGIS Online organizational accounts or ArcGIS Enterprise Portal accounts. So the administrator, of these accounts can grant access to a named user and control product level and extension for that particular named user. He can also reassign access when needed and is able at any time to know who's using a license of ArcGIS Pro and when they are using that license. A named user, in turn, once granted access, can sign in and use Pro anywhere. If the administrator allows, they can actually go offline if needed. You may be wondering what extensions are available with ArcGIS Pro, and here we have a large or long list of extensions that are available. I'm pretty sure these fit the bill for whatever workflow you're planning to use. Well, that's it for our presentation for ArcGIS Pro, and now we run into the question and answer session. It seems as if no one has asked any question so far. Well, thank you for listening to the presentation. We welcome any questions. Just send them in to solutions@esriea.com. That's solutions@esriea.com, and we'll be glad to answer your queries. We'd like to thank you for joining the webinar and participating with us, and we hope to hear from you, and we hope that you'll join us for further seminars later on this year. Thank you.